Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is the patch 13.3 notes rundown. This is a pretty sizable patch. It also introduces Aurelion Sol, who was on PBE actually for a very short amount of time, and there are a lot of changes. This is an important patch because this begins the cycle of competitive rotations unless Riot deviates from their every other two-patch cycle. And for other people that are curious, this week on co-streams, I will have actually the lead of balance, I believe, on the LCS co-stream on Friday. Riot Froxen will be there, as well as Riot the Trixie, and I will be asking a lot of questions about competitive League of Legends balance, pro play, etc., and that should be pretty good. So I'm very much so looking forward to that co-stream, that conversation, and everything that we can talk about there, because you guys hear me talk about it all the time in patch notes, and you know that basically my patch notes are centered around pro play and elite tier. Very seldom do I actually talk about or entertain the influence that it could have on lower tiers, and that is for other reasons, obviously. And so we are going to jump right into it, but before we do, remember, this version's a little bit scuffed, but the LS merch is available, and you can find it in the description below. It'll be available for another 10 days, and it is performing a lot better than I expected, so thank all of you guys so much who are buying the shirts, and I am actually really relieved that it's going as well as it is. So thank you for everyone that's buying it. Again, link will be in the description. ls9.xyz is the website, and you can choose from one of these four. There's going to be another drop probably in the summer, and then Honesty Black will also have a hoodie on the future drop. So it won't be these ones. It'll be entirely different shirts, but LS Honesty Black will have its own hoodie in the future drop. So, okay, let's get into the rundown now. All right, so first up is Aurelion Sol. So, if you guys did not see, I was doing tons of Aurelion Sol testing on PBE versus Twitch chat. We had some high MMR players, actually, in some of the games from various regions playing on ping. And a great deal of the time, actually, the designer for Aurelion Sol was in chat, Riot Yellow. Got to talk a lot, and interestingly enough, supposedly there are supposed to be changes, which ended up occurring because of all the games that we were doing on PB, so that feels very interesting. So I'm curious if it's going to end up saying that it can ship in live. I'm curious if it'll actually be there, like E being potentially cancelable, and the W bug being fixed, and the W reset not having delay. So Aurelion Sol, generalized thoughts about him is that his laning phase is really weak. I don't know. Now, again, I was playing on 160, 180 ping at most times, so he felt really clunky. But we also had Max Waldo, former C9 head coach, playing him, and Max was on like 16 ping while playing on PBE, and Max was saying that he was extremely clunky. Aurelion really wants AP. He completely changes when he starts getting up to like 300 stacks of Cosmic Dust or, whatnot, or Stardust, sorry, and once he gets Death Cap or something, third item, he starts melting people. And the damage difference on his Q really starts to scale with like game time, and what I mean by game time is accumulation of Stardust stacks and obviously AP acquisition. And his W really does make or break him a lot in team fights. A lot of setups and a lot of other things are pretty unreliable. One of the things I learned towards the very end of a lot of the testing is Aurelion can actually just trade back with people in laning phase because his damage is so high, even at early levels. And a lot of that is thanks to the 1v1s with treats that I ended up doing quite a lot. And so there's still a lot to be learned. He's probably still going to have an extremely high skill threshold. And so I imagine that he's going to launch with a really bad win rate. Maybe I'll probably end up having like a separate video on him, but this week especially, I'm going to be playing a metric boatload of Aurelion Sol. I'm going to be completely plummeting LP. not going to be a problem, don't mind. But yeah, so we won't spend too much time on him. Amumu. Q mana cost increase, E base damage decrease. Q bandage toss mana is going to go from 40 to 60 to 45 to 65. This is, not really super painful. When you're jungling with Amumu, it doesn't really do a whole lot. You're probably going to end up missing maybe 40 mana inside your initial clear. I actually don't know how many Qs you actually even end up throwing. Maybe it's like 10 or something like that, so maybe you lose 50 mana on the initial clear. The tantrum damage is really problematic. You lose 15 at rank 1, which is absolutely absurd because you're not going to do something like start W, then go E, and then go E again, or something like that, right? You're going to get Q. So having 15 damage missing from his spammable ability inside of the jungle is a really big deal. Now, once he starts getting points back into it, yes, the damage starts coming back, and by rank 3, you're only really missing 5, and at this point, the clear speed probably not going to be that different, and in fact, later, it's actually buffed by a very negligible amount, and then likewise, Bandage Toss is, very negligible, but I do think it is a big nerf to Amumu jungle. Rest in peace, Spica. But also, even for support Amumu, this really does hurt his trading. Bandage Toss, obviously, in the support role, a lot more problematic because now we're not talking about 50 mana. We're probably talking of like 150 or something like that, or more. So, yeah. Annie, the queen. Passive is now fully charged on spawn. E-shield strength increased, cooldown decreased, retaliation damage and conditions adjusted. R-Tipper's health, armor, magic resist, and movement speed increased. So the thing about Annie is it's really big for invades in solo queue. The fact that she starts with Pyromania is absolutely massive because now she can start Q. She's not forced to start with W, stay on the fountain, and spam her W a couple of times if you want to do an invade with Annie. You can just start with Q now. This completely changes the flow of the early laning phase where you just have Q outright because it's a guaranteed Q, guaranteed 2 autos, guaranteed Comet proc or Airy or Electrocute combo, whatever it is. That is insane trade power for Annie at level 1, who is already a lane bully in a lot of matchups because of her auto attack range. So the passive change, absolutely broken, and every single time she respawns means that she doesn't have to sit on fountain, do W 2 times or E or something if you want to be uber mana efficient. E Molten Shield, shield strength 40 to 220 plus 35% AP to 60 to 220 plus 55% AP. So getting 20% AP ratio added onto the shield is actually a really big deal. If you're going Glass Cannon Annie, if you're just going full pen, or if you're going to go like Leandre Riley and play like the control variation with Tibbers, which we're going to get to in a second. Cooldown 14 to 10 to 12 to 8. So this is a much more spammable ability, which means that Annie is getting a lot of EHP. These are massive Annie buffs. Retaliation magic damage 20 to 60 plus 20% AP to 30 to 90 plus 40%. So this is broken. Retaliation magic damage conditions when Molten Shield is active, enemies whose basic attacks hit the shield receive magic damage. When Molten Shield is active, enemies whose basic attack and spells hit the shield. So this is always going off. Now you can use this against mages. This is not, obviously you could before because of the shield, but now you're getting legitimate reflect damage. Annie is gaining so much damage in laning phase. She's gaining so much EHP. These changes are really big because Annie likes to sack AP because she has some of the highest AP ratios in the entire game, and the way that she likes to nuke people, she's a very big fan of all of the really big AP items. She loves Shadow Flame, loves Ludens, loves Leandres, loves Deathcap, etc. This is really strange. E Molten Shield will now only inflict damage against opponents once per target per shield. That's totally fine. Note, Tibber's duplicated shield counts as a new shield and can inflict damage once per target per shield. That's amazing too, because obviously people will hit Tibbers. So you can count this as almost like a double. Like this is pretty nuts. So instead of being a 10 base and 20%, it's more like 20 base and 40% AP because everyone hits Tibbers. So that is really not. You're getting 40% AP added on a guaranteed reflect. You're getting the passive on Pyromania, and you're getting so much more EHP. And now our Tibbers health is going to stay the same base-wise, but it's going to have 75% AP ratio added. This means that Tibbers is probably going to be able to tank, an extra 2 turret shots or something like that, which is 2 more auto attacks, if you want to end up doing that. And Tibbers will just be a little bit more durable inside of the fights. The resistances are going to get 5% AP, bonus armor, and MR. So yeah, Tibbers overall just a lot more tanky. At rank 1, his movement speed is going to be the same, but I really like that they have increased it so that now Tibbers can actually keep up with opponents even in the later stages of the game. Some opponents are going to exceed the 400 MS threshold. However, if you do like the Leandre Riley type stuff, then Annie's going to have a lot of control. Jarvan, we move on. Base armor increased, W cooldown decreased, shield strength now scales with AD, shield duration decreased 34 to 36. So base armor up, so Jarvan will have a little bit more HP all around, no matter where you play him. W Golden Aegis, cooldown 9 to 8 seconds, shield strength 60 to 140 to 60 to 140 plus 80% bonus AD. So now, even if you go Glass Cannon Jarvan, where you go full lethality, or like if you go Bruiser Jarvan should actually have a lot of emphasis. He's going to have a lot of EHP, especially with the cooldown going down to 8 seconds when you factor in ability haste, and how often with Bruiser itemization, Jarvan's going to be able to get ability haste. This is a lot of EHP added. And then the shield duration, 5 seconds to 4 seconds, totally fine. K'Sante, base health increased, Q knockup and stun duration decreased, W minimum stun duration decreased, R bonus resistances lost increased. Okay. So health growth is up by 6. So again, not really the end of the world. He's getting a ruby crystal in exchange for Q knockup duration 1 second to 0.65, Q 3 stun duration 1 to 1.25. Doesn't really matter that much. W pathmaker minimum stun duration 0.35 to 0.75 to 0.3 to 0.5. I guess that one is a little bit more problematic. And then R all out resistance loss 65%, bonus resistances 85%. Bonus resistances. So that's a really big deal. He loses all of like his tank itemization. This doesn't affect all of his build paths, primarily ones that are just more in general HP centric than others. But I will say that yes, it is definitely a nerf to K'Sante. I don't expect him to really move that much from his pro play status. Kassadin, E base damage decreased, cooldown reduction from nearby casts decreased, R base damage decreased, bonus damage per stack decreased, E force pulse, base damage 80 to 180 plus 85% to 60 to 180 plus 85%. This is totally fine, although it definitely will hurt him. Cooldown for nearby cost 1 second to 0.75 seconds, still totally fine. R REWORK magic damage 80 to 120 plus 40% plus 2% to 70 to 110 plus 40% plus 2%, and then bonus damage per stack likewise is also going down. So these are definitely nerfs to Kassadin, but I think that Kassadin is just in a really good state as long as he comes in as a counter pick. This definitely harms his blind pick potential, especially in some matchups where Force Pulse is like his first max. But definitely like matchups where he puts Q to 3 and then maxes E. You know, I mean, he will feel it a little bit early on with the damage, but Kassadin got so much indirect buffs over the last couple of patches that it just does not matter. He's still going to be in a good spot as a counter pick. Kale, passive bonus movement speed increased, E on hit AP scaling increased, missing health damage increased. Okay, so it seems like the buff was not pulled. So passive Divine Ascend, 8% to 10%, almost getting magical boots on the exalted bonus movement speed. And then E Starfire Spellblade, 15 to 35 plus 10 plus 20 to 15 to 35. Plus 10 plus 25% bonus AP. So obviously really big when you get the Nasher's Tooth. It's just a lot of extra damage added in for Kale. So Nemesis, I would say Nemesis rank 1, but unfortunately he's already been rank 1 for a while. Kayn, passive Shadow Assassin, I can't even speak. Shadow Assassin damage increased, QAD scaling increased. So passive, the Darkened Scythe, 13-40% based on level post-mitigation damage to champion is repeated as magic damage for the first 3 seconds of damage to champion to 15 to 45% based on level. I know a lot of people are crying that this is like sort of semi-undoing the durability patch, but honestly, Shadow Kayn is still not in that great of a situation. You know, he's in an awkward spot, and I mean, this is... I want to say it's a negligible amount of damage. It's not totally a negligible amount, but is it going to push him back into the meta? No, I don't think so. And now, obviously, he's getting a little bit more amp here, where he's getting 15% bonus damage on his Q Reaping Slash. These are nice changes for Shadow Kayn. Definitely don't get me wrong. He can be picked in certain spots, but these aren't things that are magically going to make him be picked in more spots than he wasn't already pickable in before, and that's the main point. LeBlanc. Base stats, 6 to 8, mana regeneration growth, 0.8 to 1. Q, Sigil of Malice, mana cost 50 to 70 to 50 at all ranks. And R Mimic, 60 to 30 to 50 to 30. So the biggest buff, I think, is the R Mimic being up more frequently in lane. The mana cost on the Sigil no longer, you know, going up with rank or something. It's going to get you probably like one to 2 free casts, realistically, like per recall. Well, I think in early recall phases, maybe 2 maximum, but more so it's going to end up getting you 1. Now, with the increase to the mana regeneration, etc., you're probably going to end up getting 2 for free, but LeBlanc doesn't really have mana issues, and LeBlanc is still not a champion that you want to pick blind, so she still has the same exact problems that there's just a lot of other better champions right now. Lee Sin, QAD ratio increase, E-base damage decrease, slow increase, Q Sonic Wave Resonating Strike are both buffed, as well as the Tempest Cripple has also been buffed with the slow is going up by 20%, etc. So this is good. They're mostly doing this, I think, because of Vi and Wukong rotation right now, which is really, really sad. But the reality is that I think that even buffs like this, all that they do is they remind pro players that Lee Sin exists. And with that being said, and a little bit of very minor AD, because we're talking about bonus AD. Early on, early mid-game, etc., Lee Sin does not have that much bonus AD. He's going to get somewhere around like 60, maybe. So you're talking about 10% bonus AD on Sonic Wave Resonating Strike. You're literally talking about 6 damage. So 6 damage, if that is magically now the reason that you're going to start picking Lee Sin in competitive for early and mid-game prowess, like what are we actually saying? That's not justification to pick Lee Sin in early and mid-game for the reasons that junglers are being picked right now. So it feels really strange. Trundle, W cooldown decreased at all ranks, discovering his passion for dancing. Yes, he definitely is. As W frozen domain 18 to 14 to 16 to 12 he's getting 2 seconds shaved off. This is really big for, I would say, like top lane Trundle more than some of the other Trundles. It does help like the jungle Trundle move around a little bit better. I think this is actually an undoing of a nerf that he actually received a very long time ago. Ultimately, Trundle should probably have been popping up a lot more recently because of Radiant Virtue especially, and I would expect that with the changes to some of the support champions that we're actually going to see Trundle a lot more, and so there's that. Zac, WAP scaling decreased, EAP scaling decreased. None of this matters. Go on op.gg and search Zac, literally spelled Zac, on the Korean server. Take a look at the best Zac player probably in the world in solo queue right now. I think he was top 25 last I checked on the Korean ladder. As I just realized that as I'm doing this filming on OBS, that alerts are still live, so I apologize for that pop-up. Zac, WAP scaling decreased, EAP scaling decreased, but again, he doesn't actually build AP, so it doesn't matter. None of this matters. None of this matters at all, and so that's going to be very good. Radiant Virtue. Radiant Virtue is currently an overpowered, even if pick rate isn't reflecting it, yet its strength isn't really appreciable due to how unclear the item's best points are, because when you buy a strong item, you should feel strong. Making Radiant Virtue's upsides more apparent and impactful while removing some of the extraneous power that is pushing this item a bit too far. We feel enchanters already have plenty of defensive options, while Radiant Virtue is meant for selfless tanks who have fewer. So we're trying Radiant Virtue's value more directly tied with tanks with the budget. Okay, so the total cost of gold is going up by 200. This really does hurt supports. Passive Guiding Light cooldown 60 to 90. Guiding Light cooldown maximum health gain 10 to 15. Total healing 8 to 16 maximum health over 9 seconds to 12% maximum health over 9 seconds. You and all allies within 1,200 units gain 20 ability haste is removed. So this item actually did just get tagged. This item did get tagged. The loss of ability haste is massive. The loss of the maximum health is also pretty massive. It's still going to be built on some champions, but yes, the item did definitely just get tagged. Umbral Glaive is currently too effective at choking out enemy vision for assassin supports, and especially marksman supports. Start killing my defensive wards, Ashe. We do think this item deserves a spot on the roster, though, so we're reducing its uptime and general ability to devastate the enemy taps and vision. Cooldown 40 seconds to 50 seconds. Ranged champion reduce damage to wards. When a ranged champion using Umbral Glaive attacks a ward, they deal 2 true damage to it. No, melee champions will still deal 3 damage to wards using Umbral Glaive. Okay. Umbral Glaive will no longer instantly kill traps, but it will still reveal them. So this is a pretty sizable nerf. It does tie up the marksman a little bit longer. I still expect that we are going to continue to get the marksman stuff going on, though. Overheal. Shield value 10 plus 9% maximum health to 20 to 300. Guys, I'm not going to do the NA math this time around. So Overheal, I think with all the changes that Marksman ended up having, as well as like with Bloodthirster and all this other stuff, Overheal is definitely going to be the go-to, I think, in most cases. Almost always now. And, especially for users that have healing either in their kit or they have like Moonstone, Enchantress supports, and they're able to get like Bloodline, they can heal up, etc. Overheal is going to definitely be the go-to now. Melee support adjustments. So we already talked about all of this. I think the most impactful ones, realistically, don't get me wrong, I think the Braum one is definitely very big. Some of them are more slated for like unique builds than actually just being outright support buff builds, but let's take a look. Alistar passive Triumphant Roar, self heal 23 to 142 based on level to 5% max health, and then ally heal 46 to 284 based on level 6% of Alistar's max health. This is really big for like solo lane Alistar. It's also good for support Alistar, but it's larger for solo lane Alistar. Now, unfortunately, Alistar can't jungle because of the changes to jungle. He can't actually kill anything on the second clear, really. But it's good for like top lane Alistar, but I don't expect that we're going to ever see that come back. Q, Pulverize. Mana cost 55 to 75 to 50 to 70. And then the magic damage 60 to 220 plus 50% AP to 60 to 220 plus 70% AP. Again, Alistar is not building ability power, but he does get the AP support item. So then you take the 20% of the AP support item's value and you end up realizing that this is not a reason to pick Alistar if you weren't already willing to pick him before. I'm trying to think if there's like other AP items. I mean, I guess he could go Zanya's or something in a competitive game, and then you have access to 2 AP items. But really, is this alone enough justification to pick Alistar? And I think the answer is probably no. But hold on, there's more. W, Headbutt. Mana cost 65 to 85 to 50 to 70. That is a lot of more mana. Or I mean, that's a lot more mana given to him. Magic damage is the same, however, 20% AP. So he's getting 20%, 20%, and now down here he's getting 30% on his full combo. So that is absolutely kind of bonkers. Let's be honest. He's getting 70% ability power. Now we're talking about actual damage in his full combo. So now, yes, I do think that like this is pretty big for support Alistar. It's really big for like top lane Alistar if he could end up going like Demonic Embrace with other items because this is a massive amount of damage added to his combo. I just don't know about top lane Alistar matchups. Maybe there's some absolute psycho or something that plays top lane Alistar and would know more, but for me, I don't know. But top lane Alistar definitely gets the best out of all of this. Support Alistar definitely gets a lot of love. Braum, passive Concussive Blows. Target immunity 8 to 4 seconds based on level 1713 to 8 to 4 seconds based on 1611. This is really big because he gains access to the 6 literally at level 6, which is really huge for his all-in combo. So he's no longer locked out for an additional level. This level is also kind of hard to come by as well because this is when you need 780 EXP. So you would need more than an entire cannon wave, non-cannon. You would need 3 waves of EXP to yourself. You wouldn't need the entirety of the third wave to yourself, but you would need pieces of the third wave to yourself in order to get that level up, and that's hard to come by as a support. Q Winter's Bite, 10 to 6 seconds to 8 to 6 seconds is really big. It's a lot more spammable in the early game. This also probably means that, 2v2 all-ins, 3v3 all-ins, you're getting access to this a lot faster. This is really strong for Braum. W, Stand Behind Me, bonus armor and magic resist 10 to 26 to 20 to 40 is absolutely massive as well. I mean, this is really, really nuts for durability for the marksman and stuff. So Braum, I would say, is the biggest winner so far, unless I'm really misunderstanding Alistar. Nautilus, Staggering Blows, bonus damage 8 to 110 based on level to 14 to 116. Doesn't really matter, I don't think. W, Titan's Wrath, mana cost 10, 10, mana what? Duration, 10 to 6 seconds, so this is the cooldown. 10 to 6 seconds to 8 to 6 seconds, so he's able to get it up a little bit more inside of trades, and then the shield strength is going up more frequently. So he is getting a lot of EHP inside of the trades, and then the Riptide, and again, this is all based on maximum health, etc. The Riptide, 55 to 175 plus 30% AP to 55 to 195 plus 50% AP. So he's getting 20 base, and then he's getting 20% AP, but Nautilus, I think, unlike Alistar, 20% AP, again, it's not really an entire reason to pick him. Nautilus is already sort of being picked, so I'm fine with him being like the worst of the 2 that we've evaluated so far. Pike, the Phantom Undertow. So, okay, the Bone Skewer was actually removed, which is very surprising. Physical damage is going up by 40. Yeah, that's weird. So Phantom Undertow, physical damage going up by 40 is kind of nutsoid for Pike, but I am glad that they did remove the Bone Skewer from this as well, because that would have been way too much for Pike. In a Enchanter-dominated meta right now. Rakan. So this is really big. I know what this is. This is like the AP Rakan stuff. Yeah. So cooldown 12 to 8 to 11 to 7. Mana cost down by 15. Base heal 30 to 115. Plus 55% AP to 40 to 210. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely absolutely absurd that the base is going up as much as it is. And then W, the Grand Entrance, magic damage 70 to 290 plus 70% AP to 70 to 270 plus 80% AP. So once you exceed... Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Wow, okay, they nerfed the AP ratio. Wow, okay, so it seems like... So I'm sorry. They all right. So they nerfed the base by 20, and they increased the AP ratio by 10%. So you need to get over 200 in order for this to be a buff. The AP Recon support build, I think, will go over 200, but ever so slightly, so it's not like a buff until, like, uber late. Doesn't really matter. Thresh, Q Death Sentence, magic damage 100 to 260 plus 50%, 100 to 280 plus 80%. Note, Thresh's AP ratio can be interpreted as 0.8 damage per soul, unless you're going AP Thresh, but you do you, friend. Okay, W Dark Passage, 2 to 1.5 shield per soul. So the shield is down a little bit, but this is very negligible. It's very rare that you use the entirety of the Dark Passage shield, so it doesn't matter. And then the Flay, 75 to 215 plus 40%, 75 to 215. No, same applies here. It doesn't actually say what the new AP ratio is. So Thresh is hitting a little bit harder. This is really good for some of his matchups, but ultimately not going to do a whole bunch of things. Jungle adjustments. So this is really, really big. Now that we've had a chance to let the preseason jungle changes settle into place, we've gotten a more accurate picture of where the role currently stands, etc. So jungle is really imbalanced right now in terms of EXP. So we'll just talk about this really quickly. So income. Treat income rewards champions that gank more than champions that prefer to farm. Ideally, both play styles are viable, so we're tipping the scales to be a bit more balanced. Gold per treat, 30 to 20. Experience per jungle camp with a companion experience from clearing a jungle camp has been decreased by 5 experience per camp. Vision. Early vision has proven to deter early ganks in the past, especially in higher skill levels. While we don't want to go back to giving teams permanent map visibility, we do think that some extra vision early will help curb the amount of early ganks currently happening on live. Given that you have 2 players in the bot lane, there should be a safer way to introduce more vision, leveraging the duo lane's unique strengths. Stealth Ward Trinket cooldown 240 to 120 based on average champion level to 210 to 120 based on average champion's level. This is a massive buff that it comes up in half a minute sooner. Ganking success. With the same intent of deterring the large amount of early ganks, we're upping tower damage so that the benefits of the tower damage is also going up. Turret damage is okay, so turret damage is going up. Okay, as a reminder, turrets ramp up to damage by 40% per shot against the same target. Okay. Other changes. Smite fights are for champions. Jungle companions can no longer deal lethal damage to epic monsters. That's very good as well. So these are nice changes, but obviously jungle is definitely broken in terms of EXP. So until they actually adjust that, I mean, it's a little difficult. Clash update. Due to the recent social engineering attack, the first Clash tournament of the Mirror has unfortunately been delayed. This means that the first Clash tournament will not be in mid-February as it has been the past few years, and the rest of the Clash tournament dates are being impacted as well, working to get Clash back up and running as soon as possible. This does mean that on Patreon, which is the link below the webcam, there will not be a Clash tier list getting posted this time around, I don't think, unless maybe there's still benefit for fun tournaments or something that aren't Clash. Maybe that'll end up happening. But other than that, I mean, there is the new tier that has been introduced, which features VOD reviews and coaching sessions, which is now there on Patreon. Competitive, our data shows that comeback rates from a team falls behind 4 of 5 early surrender 20-minute are low. Teams have a generally good sense of when games they will and won't win when 4 or 5 of the players are on the same page. We'll be testing a change to surrender threshold that lets these matches resolve more quickly. At the same time, it is important that a winning team has to feel powerful with a lead and games aren't abandoned too soon. We'll be closely monitoring player feedback and impact of the game. Oh, wow. In blind pick and normal draft, normal surrender, 4 out of 5 or 70% of the team members must agree to pass the vote is available at 20 minutes to 15. Unanimous early surrender requirement has been removed. Ooh, okay. Unrelated to the above, the MMR duo restriction for Apex ranks has been re-enabled. Interesting. Made matchmaking adjustments for faster normal blind pick queue times. Okay, that's nice. Behavioral system. Remove the warning and practice tool for staying in the fountain too long. Okay. Quality of life, bug fixes. Okay. And then obviously move on to the skins. So, with that being said, Aurelion Sol, I'm going to have a separate video on him probably later this week. Any change is massive. It's massive for competitive, where, I mean, it's huge for support, it's huge for mid, it's huge for ADC, it's huge for top, and it's really big, these Annie changes. I'm really curious what the win rate is that goes up on this patch. I wouldn't be surprised if Annie gets hit in a patch or two just from these changes, because these are genuinely massive. I mean, she was already the best champion that you could be picking, probably gold and below, from mid lane. I mean, everyone always comes to me with their OPGGitis, and I always prescribe antibiotics, and it always does the miracle cure. I mean, it just does everything. Amumu gets hurt in jungle and support. Jarvan, very big for jungle and top. If he goes bruiser, full glass cannon. Casanti doesn't matter. Kassadin doesn't matter. Kayle, really, really, really big. Will not probably move her competitively. She's still pickable when she was before. Kayn doesn't matter. LeBlanc doesn't matter. Lee Sin, he's going to be picked more because of placebo, because pros don't already do math on Chempunk, so why would they when factoring in whether or not the damage change here provided is enough to justify picking Lee Sin for his early and mid-game prowess. And then, obviously, Trundle doesn't really matter. Zac doesn't matter. Radiant Virtue nerf, Umbreglaive, etc. All this stuff, not really a big deal. I do think that Alistar and Braum are the main benefactors of the support changes here by a long shot, and then we go into the skins. Okay, and so honestly, I mean, I'm not knowing how to feel about this one. This definitely looks like a Netflix version of something going on in League of Legends. I really hope this isn't what's going on next. I believe that is Caitlyn, and I believe that's Vi. So they are definitely showing us that, Caitlyn and... Oh, this looks like Heartstopper. The graphics, just started watching that recently. Not a bad show. I mean, it feels a little bit weird. And then obviously Amumu, very sad that he's getting nerfed. And you can also see that from his bag of candy, he probably bought this for himself at Walmart because no one would give Amumu any candy because no one likes him. But moving on from there, it does look like Tibbers is in the background or something like that. So maybe there's another skin or something that's coming. And these Amumu skins look like a really messed up version of a Pokemon. So this one looks like Count Dracula or something, like the cereal. Everything else just looks super weird. This really looks like a doll that you'd win in one of those those claw machines. The Vi skins look really weird. I don't actually want to say what I'm thinking. You know what she looks like? She looks like from that Pokemon series, the flame breather, like the overweight flame breather that was on like one of those, not the Team Rocket things. It was like Team Magma or something like that. She looks like the Team Magma something. And then, oh my lord. All right, guys, I think that's it for the patch rundown. I have somewhere to be right now. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.